Good afternoon, everyone. It is 2:05, Wednesday, April 22nd. This is a little bit of an off calendar or off schedule meeting. Let's bring this to order. I'm going to ask Ms. Karen Warner to collect the minutes for this meeting as our secretary is not currently present. Ms. Warner, would you please conduct a roll call to ascertain a quorum?
Absolutely, Chair Molina. Let's start with you, Chair Molina.
Here.
Member Brown,
Here.
Member Schubert. Can you
Here.
unmute? There we go.
I got.
There
Thank
you
you.
go.
We can hear you. And it is noted that Member, or rather Vice Chair Anderson and Secretary McKinney are not here, but we do have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. And I think we're ready for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can pop that red, white, and blue up, that'd be great. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. And we'll open it up for public comment regarding the one thing on our agenda, and that is this year's budget. I don't see anyone in.
So Mr. Branch is in the audience, but
Oh, yeah, there he is.
Mr. Branch, if you wanted to make a comment, please do raise your digital hand or put your name in the chat. Otherwise, we don't have any public attendees.
Yep.
Otherwise.
Absolutely. All right, I see no hands raised. Mr. Branch, I hope you enjoy the conversation. And that closes our public comment agenda item. Moving on to item number 3, and that is the approval of the current agenda. I move to approve this afternoon's current agenda as presented. A second, please.
I'll second.
Very good. Ms. Warner, would you please conduct a roll call vote to approve the current agenda for this afternoon's meeting as presented?
Absolutely. Member Schubert,
Yes.
Member Brown,
Yes.
and Chair Molina.
Aye. All
Motion
right, the
carries
agenda.
3 to.
Yep.
Oops.
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Habit.
The motion does carry unanimously. And we are on to the school finance budget review. I hand this over to Whitney and Mr. Colander. Take it away.
All right. Let's see. Can everybody see it?
Yes, ma'am. I
Okay.
think for some of the pages you might need to zoom in a little bit, but we can see that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we are reviewing your budget for school year 26-27. Table of contents. Thank you, Karen, for catching my typo on here. We're going to go over some highlights, revenue and expenditures, and fund balance. Highlights for this budget, we were able to balance the budget based on anticipated revenues and cash carryover going into next year from the foundation in the amount of approximately $1 million. All staff will receive the mandated 1% average pay increase. The teacher minimums, they didn't actually increase this year. They stayed at $55,000, $65,000, and $75,000 for level 1, 2, and 3 teachers respectively. The unit value.
Excuse me, Miss Sanchez. I'm sorry, so sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to let you all know that Miss McKinney, Secretary McKinney and Vice Chair Anderson are here, so I'd like to promote them to the panel before you proceed.
Sure.
If you give them just a second to
Perfect.
get over here.
Woohoo.
And my apologies for the interruption.
No, thank you.
They're here now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Dottie and Heather. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The unit value did increase to $7,117.10, up from the final unit value, the current fiscal year of $6,877.10. Health insurance increased 9.95%. Dental increased 4. Vision will be flat. And then the NIPSIA risk insurance, this is the property and liability insurance, is increasing by 16%. We have at-risk multipliers calculated in the SEG, and the English learner multiplier is in there as well. We will be participating in 24 additional days over the 155-day minimum on a 4-day calendar. And the result is approximately $2.8 million in additional operational funding. This school specific budget changes, SEG increased about 4.37%. I decreased, there's a typo, decreased about 40%. This is based on your staff's licensure and years of experience. Ancillary increased, as I mentioned, the NIPSIA risk insurance increased. SEG unit value increased, raises, and then another noteworthy thing is that the school is now required to pay 80% of insurance premiums for all staff, not just the staff that fall below a certain salary threshold. We have already touched on most of this. The insurance increases, the minimum instructional hours, which you do meet, the multiplier for the days over the required minimum days. All staff must be paid a minimum of $15 an hour. We've talked about the salary minimums and the minimums for principals. Now into your specific budget. So the overall projected budget, when we say projected, we're talking about next school year, fiscal 27. The overall budget is $26,555,789. This includes both projected new revenue and projected cash carryover, as I mentioned, of about $1 million from the foundation funds that we received this year. Your SEG is increasing about $809,000, which is great. It's partly due to an increase in enrollment and then, of course, taking advantage of the K-12 Plus program. This is based on your calendar. Special revenue funding is based on estimates from PED. This is a lot of the work that Lisa did in the UA, the Unified Application, and capital outlay funds are based off of PED's projections received from Bernalillo and Sandoval County. This is your HB 33 and SB 9 projections. Overall, the operational fund makes up most of the school's budget, and it is used to cover your operational costs. And we've detailed below, and you all are familiar with what we can use some of the typical special revenue funds for. And then these tables to the right illustrate the breakdown of those funds. So operational, your SEG will be $19.4 million. We're anticipating about $1 million of transportation funds and $800,000 in food services. And then most of these amounts here came directly out of the planning awards listed in the unified application. Some of them are just based on current year amounts, but where we got numbers from PED directly, we used those exact amounts. Lease assistance, this is just an estimate, and we can't apply for lease assistance until November, December timeframe, and then we don't get the award until January or February. This is slightly lower, the $1 million, than what you received this year, but just a conservative, flat, round estimate for that. Your HB 33 and SB 90s did come directly from PED, as I mentioned, based on the estimates from the counties. This is your property tax collection estimates. This graph, you can see the change year over year. So the estimated side is our current fiscal year projected side is next year's budget. Overall, the budget is expected to decrease about 4.26%. or about $1.1 million. But I know it looks scary. The biggest contributor to this is that we received about $2 million in grants from the foundation, and we aren't projecting additional donations from the foundation. So that's the biggest chunk of this decrease. Um, This table shows similarly a year-over-year change in your program cost for your SEG. So this section here is your membership for current year versus next year,
Would you
and
mind?
then how that translates into program unit. I'm sorry, did somebody have a question?
Yeah, would you mind zooming in a little?
Sure.
It's a little hard to see here.
Yes. Better? Okay. So this is the actual membership and then how it translates into program units. So different categories have different weights, carry different weights. So membership translates into units, and then you multiply those units by the unit value. And then this is final unit value for the current fiscal year. This is the initial unit value for next fiscal year. And then you can see how each of these areas generate different dollars of revenue within the SEG. So you did, as we have already discussed, have a slight decrease in your TCI. So we're losing a little bit of SEG for the teachers, and then your C and D level membership. Other than that, everything else is increasing. So it's a net increase of about $809,000 to your total SEG. Okay, so um, I was able to balance your estimated side, your current year expenditures using the $2 million of foundation contributions. We are working toward building up cash reserves in operational fund. We want to maintain some of the foundation money, and then we are going to work toward rebuilding HB 33 and SB 9 cash reserves. As we've talked about in Finance Committee, and I think I've mentioned it in GC as well, the numbers that we get for HB 33 and SB 9 do come directly from PED, and they work with the county on those estimates. I am not as optimistic that we will achieve all of the revenue that they have put in there, but Jake and I did spend some time looking at prior years, and it is closer than my initial thoughts. So based on our actual revenue year to date, I didn't think we would get anywhere near the amounts that they had put in our budget for this year. But when I looked at the actuals for years past, we most likely get a substantial deposit in June to make up that budgeted amount. So I'm less worried about it than I was probably last week. Um, but we do want to build up those HB 33 and SB 9 reserves as well. So we are anticipating carryover of just over $1 million for private donation. There is one other fund that has a very small amount in cash carryover that contributed to the $1,020,000 that I reported on a previous page. The $1,008,000 is specifically the foundation fund.
And can I ask a question real quick? Is that I remember you saying there's a difference between what we are budgeting on our end versus what's entered into OBMS as the official projected budget for next year. Does that 1.02 million cash carryovers, that's what's reflected in OBMS for our cash carryover for next year, or is that accurate?
Yeah, I haven't uploaded into OBMS yet, but yes, the 1,008,000 will be uploaded into OBMS on the foundation fund code, and that other fund that has a small amount will be loaded into OBMS. And then we're conservatively, we're just going to say zero cash carryover in operational fund. So
Okay.
yes, these will go into OBMS on the projected side.
And I don't know because I don't know if you've seen in the past what hit us this year was an OBMS entered cash carryover of 1.3 million that by the time we hit June, we weren't even close to that. So I just want to make sure that whatever's in that, and so was that 1.3? I don't know if you looked at that particular situation. Was that the estimated cash carryover in operational, whereas we're estimating zero?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was why I want to say two GC meetings ago, you had the bar decrease in the operational fund of 1.6 million. So they had projected $1.3 million of cash. The actual cash was negative 300,000. So to get the cash line of the budget to the true negative $300,000 cash, that was the reason we needed a $1.6 million decrease bar. So and that was on operational fund. So for operational fund, we are going to put zero on projected cash. We're going to say we are not taking cash into next year.
Okay. Thank you.
This graph shows you where we are spending our operational budget by function, and we're spending 60% on instruction and 13% in classroom support and 7% for other support, for administration. So, I mean, between the 60 and 13%, we're spending a huge chunk of our operational budget on the kids, which is exactly what PED wants to see. And then this graph shows you a year-over-year comparison. Oops, I'm sorry. By function again. Geez Louise, my apologies. I'm trying to zoom out a little bit. So year over year, we are spending a little bit less on instruction. This is mostly due to staffing. There were a few employees who are not returning, that we are not backfilling their positions. So that is reducing some of the instructional costs for teachers. And then just reworking the contract days as well. It isn't noted in the comment above, but reworking the number of contract days is dropping what we're paying on instruction. We do have a slight increase here of building and plant. There was one line in your other costs, and just a little bit of backstory. So as we were working through the budget, Jake and I had multiple conversations about some of your vendor costs, so your non-personnel costs, basically. And what we did in almost every instance was if you spent money on it this year, we said you were going to spend the same amount next year, except for things that we knew were increasing. So we did budget within a few lines like advertising, Vertex, our services are in there. Some of your instructional materials within your operational fund, we have to budget a certain amount to that line. So we did put precise amounts on certain lines. All of the other ones, we left them flat for this year, knowing that more than likely next year, we will not be using some of the vendors that we used this year. So there was one line in the building and plant for rent, lease specifically, not lease to purchase. So this wasn't the lease to purchase agreement for our rent. There was another line within the budget for lease. Seemed like it was heavily overstated. And so when we factor in your true lease to purchase costs plus that extra line of rent that was in the budget, it makes it look like your building and plant is going up next year. But in reality, one of those lines is more of just a placeholder. And if we don't spend it, that's great because that will just help us in our cash carryover for the next year. So we're going to leave it there. We know that it's probably overstated, and it's not a true expense.
And can I ask real quick, was that rent, or I guess let me ask, where does it factor in the bond covenant that we have to leave? Is that just factored in the LPA line as part of the total
Yeah.
cost?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I did budget, I'll talk about it when we get to the fund balance slide. Everything else is pretty flat. I mean, we are spending a little bit more on classroom support. Administration is actually going down a little bit. This has to do with some of the director's costs. Central services is also going down a little bit. And then these graphs show you same thing, operational fund expenses, but this is by object code. So by function is where we see like in what areas, instruction or otherwise, this is where we see more specifically what we're spending the money on. So we are seeing a reduction to compensation and benefits, going back to what we talked about before, but not backfilling certain positions, directors' salaries getting readjusted, and then total number of pay days for staff.
All right, I know I'm going to
And
keep asking questions, and I apologize because this is for the
that's
board.
fine.
On the previous page, you mentioned that the administrative cost, part of that was reflected in reduction in directors, but at least from what I can read from the numbers, that doesn't, like what we spent this year versus what we're anticipating to spend next year, I feel like it's lower than that. Are the directors in just the admin, or are some of them coded elsewhere, like class support or
Some of them are coded elsewhere, yeah, because some of them are coded in like classroom support, and then also like building and plant, because you have a facilities director, so they aren't all in administration.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect. Thank you.
that's a good question. As you can see here, we're projecting that we're going to spend 84% of the budget on compensation and benefits. If you think about our monthly finance GC packets, there's a similar graph each month, and we spend about 84% on compensation and benefits. It's normal. Most all schools do. That's the majority of every school's budget is the personnel. And then we had a last minute change to this table yesterday. Yes, yesterday. This is where we break down all of the positions, and I kind of did a little bit of renaming of the position so that it's more consistent, because we had this year, the way it's set up in APTA, we have some people who are coded as managers, but they're actually directors, or like an admin, but same thing, they might be a director. So I tried to make it more consistent. And when we put them in APTA next year, we'll use more consistent coding so that we can see like, okay, like these are truly directors, etc. But we have basically 95.3 teachers, a few content specialists, and actually that 0.3 belongs in content specialist. And that's kind of goes back to the language that we talked about earlier. Conditionally approving minor changes in like coding, things like that, and any adjustments PED wants to make. We do have an instructional coach. And then, Jake, this answers your question. Like right here, there's directors in support. And then we have deans of students, coordinators, instructional coaches, academic coaches, which those probably could be consolidated into one thing, counselors, security, all of our health services, and some ancillary services, although we do outsource with vendors a lot of our ancillary as well. So not all of them are on staff. They're not on payroll. They're paid as vendors, non-personnel costs. Admin assistants and associates, they are slightly different. And administrators, we have assistant principals, and then several department managers, 2 office managers, 2 principals, and a scheduler. We have a few custodians and partial salary, partial FTE in building and plant for a director, and have an assistant principal in central services. And I think maybe it's because this person is transitioning job roles. So that we can clean up as far as the job classes go. And then same thing, dean of students should move up to support with this dean of students. So a few minor changes, but overall the number of FTEs, the total salaries and benefits doesn't change. We're spending about $16 million on salaries and benefits. And then on the stipends, we have athletics stipends. We have end of year and beginning of year additional days. We have national boards that we have to pay. This is based on the unit value. I did build in per Jake's request some retention stipends. This would be for all staff. Every person who signs their contract to return to next year would get, Jake, just so that you know, I budgeted this at $500 per person. And then there are a few other stipends in here, not like specifically coded, in the amount of about $12,500. And then these are your non-personnel costs. So these are all of your vendors. One noteworthy thing is I did budget $68,000 for advertising. Jake has already expressed he does not plan on spending all $68,000 on advertising, but just so that it is there for marketing, we have the budget for it. Again, if we don't spend it, great. We can use it elsewhere if needed, or we can just use it to carry over into our budget next year. Most of these other amounts are strictly last year's amounts are being translated to this year's amounts. This item, your operation reserve, and the next line is your foundation reserve. So we have to budget them because we have to submit a balanced budget. Cash plus revenue minus expenses has to be zero when we submit the budget. So even though we know we want to reserve and not spend the money, we have to put it on an expense line. So I have budgeted $885,000.70 out of the operational fund on one specific line of the operational budget with an object code that we never use, and it's actually designated for restricted. So that we don't touch it. We just forget about it. We pretend it doesn't exist. So when we're opening purchase orders, we don't accidentally code something to this $885,000 because at the end of fiscal 27, we want to end with some cash. And we're saying we're going to end this current year with zero. We want to end next year with 885,000 of operational fund. Same thing for foundation. We're bringing some cash in. Next year, we want to finish the year with about 626,000. This lease assistance, again, is just an estimate, and then your SB9 and HB33 came from PED. And so they're in capital reserve because that's what we have to spend it on, and we'll use it for the lease to purchase agreement. And then these are just some of your property services, your utilities and things like that. We do have a little bit budgeted for maintenance and repair. And then this is that line, renting land and buildings. We will use some of this truly for like gym rentals. We have to rent gyms for sports and whatnot. So we will use some of it this year. But anything we don't spend, hopefully we can carry forward into cash next year. I'm sorry, and we are 3 minutes over, so I will go faster. On this graph, I just want to emphasize this zero line. In 21, you had some cash. In 22, you had more. And then starting in 23, it started to go down. And then by 24, you were in negative cash. And 25 last year, you were in negative cash. This was the $1.6 million decrease bar. We're projecting zero for this year. And then the goal would be for next year to be up to 885. This is your 910B5, that program cost comparison. It just kind of highlights without having to look at all of the details of this. It highlights, same thing, your membership, the units that it generates, and then the dollars of revenue that it generates. So if you don't want to look at this 5-page document, it is summarized in the previous page. And then this is where your SEG comes from, almost $19.4 million. This is the salary schedule, so you do meet all of the minimums, 55, 65, and 75 for level 1, 2, and 3 teachers, and then it increases incrementally based on more education or more years of experience. And then this is a calendar that you guys reviewed last week at GC. These are both 6 through 12. I just included everything that you sent me this morning, Jake, in the attachment. And then this
Excuse
is
me,
your group 5.
Mr. Collider and Ms. Sanchez, do you want to point out the change on the November before you skip
Yes.
past this? Okay.
And Jake, I'll let you speak to it, but I know there was one term day that was needed to be moved back to a different date, but it doesn't change number of days.
Correct, and that was the November 13th date. For some reason, the calendar had marked November 13th as the term break, but the term actually ends on November 6th, so it would mean everyone's getting the term break a week into the new term, and we want to avoid that for sure. So it's going to be a week that looks like it could flip-flop, have a term break on the 9th, and kids go to school the 13th only because that week of the 2nd has election day on the 3rd. So we had to make sure that everybody was off for that day, which is what pushed the instructional day through to that Friday.
And I only wanted it pointed out, board members, because you approved the calendar with that one minor, it's insignificant really in the big scheme of things, but I thought it was important for you to note that there was a minor change from what was approved the last month.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
great. Thank you, Karen. And that's it. That's the full presentation. Is there anything that stands out as no, we don't want to do this? Please remove this expense.
Not for me. I do have two questions though.
Sure.
In all of this, where is the 2% that PED takes out for their expenses? How is that calculated in here?
It isn't calculated anywhere. I mean, it's calculated here. So this is how much revenue the school actually generates based on those program units multiplied by the unit value. This is the 2% that they take out. So this is
Okay.
all that we are allowed to budget. So
Gotcha.
we don't ever see it. It doesn't even exist to us.
Thank you. And then when we voted on the whole refinance package, we voted in extra monies from that for building enhancements, improvements, AC improvements. Where is that in the budget? Where are those funds in all of this?
Well, much of that, just if I can jump in on that, a lot of
Yeah.
it ends up with the foundation because essentially the foundation's responsible for the
Okay.
building. And so for the most part, what we saw transferred into the Wells Fargo account was what the school was getting gifted from the foundation. That was that gift letter. Everything else that was all the money, the 52.4 million's been dispersed. It's just all gone into the foundation account for all the things that they need to do because they're the ones that own that. So
Okay.
they
Okay.
will have to sort of essentially factor in the budgeting for all the facility stuff. That'll be a conversation with the foundation, and we will want to make sure to keep careful track of all those details.
Absolutely. And I'd like the facilities committee to be aware of all of that as well, because I didn't see it in the budget and I thought it must be a foundation thing, which is totally fine. I just wanted to make sure that we knew where that was and that we put it to work next year to get the HVAC system squared away. All of the things that were presented to us get squared away. So thank you.
That's right. And just to add one minor comment to that, Wednesday of next week at 1 o'clock is a walkthrough because this is an example of that in action. Is Mick Rich's team has said, well, we were contracted to complete the construction of gym proper, but not the concessions area and not the black box theater. So that was negotiated via the team with the foundation because we didn't have occupancy of the building. It was negotiated with them, and that means that there's not a large part, but a significant part of construction that Mick Rich's team is saying we were not contracted to do, complete, or build, and that would leave our concessions area essentially raw construction with just drywall hung up and the black box theater incomplete. And so we are trying to get Chavez Greaves and team, Mick Rich's team, representatives from the foundation, the design team, Ralph, myself, like we're trying to get everybody in a room together to walk through that to say, how could you have agreed to conclude a project that isn't done? And that's very frustrating. So it is an invitation for anyone from the board who would like to attend that meeting as well, because there's a potential there where they're going to walk away and say, well, if you want to finish your concessions area, or if you need to repaint the black box theater, that's out of pocket for the school, which it should not be. It should be out of pocket for the foundation technically. But it would behoove us if anyone's available next Wednesday at 1 o'clock to join us for that meeting. Dottie, I would love for you to be there. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Jake, I will be there. If you would please send me a reminder email, and I'm going to put it on my calendar now, but I'll be there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That's at the Galton campus?
That's correct. Yep.
Correct. I would love to be there. I'm in a training. I'm providing a training next Wednesday here at work, so I will regretfully miss it.
I believe I can attend, but if Heather would prefer to attend or Jan instead of me, I can back out just so that we don't end up with.
I think I can do it. I'll be back in 10, so maybe.
And Bill, I won't be available that day, so you're welcome to attend.
So I
All
heard
right.
that Jen may be available, so
I'm pretty
Janet,
sure I'm still in for.
if you're not sure, perhaps since Bill is on the finance committee, it makes more sense for him to go if he's available. Not to cut you out, Jen, but
No, that's okay. I'll be back in town, so I can probably do it, but if you need me to, just let me know. Okay. Right now I'm watching a baby monitor for my granddaughter who's 4 months old, and she's wiggling around, and I'm hoping her mom gets home before this meeting is over. So if I run out, it's because she lost it, and I'm going to go get her out of the bed. Okay.
No worries. No worries.
Sorry.
All right. Well, then we'll open it up for discussion, starting with a motion. I move to conditionally approve the Explorer Academy school year 2027 budget pending final review by the New Mexico PED with possible changes. A second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, folks. Questions, comments, concerns with regards to the budget just presented to us. Thank you so much, Ms. Sanchez. You did a great job.
Agree.
Going once. Very, very good. Ms. McKinney, are you prepared to conduct a roll call vote?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Chair.
So would you please conduct a roll call vote to conditionally approve the Explorer Academy school year 2026-2027 budget pending final review by New Mexico PED with possible changes?
Yes, sir. Chair Patrick Molina,
Aye.
Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Member
Aye.
Jan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney. Aye.
Great. Motion passes. We have an approved conditional budget based on what PED says. Ms. Whitney said that they may make a tweak here and there, but we've done the heavier lifting. And if PED makes any changes, we can certainly bring those to the board.
And I will be sending the signature form to everybody via Adobe Sign so everyone can sign on the approval of the budget.
Perfect. Excellent. All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I conclude this meeting at 4:43 in the afternoon. This meeting is adjourned. I will see everybody Tuesday, May 12th at 5:30 via this format. Thank you all so very much for taking time out of your day. Whitney, you did a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
243, but thank you.